honourable member for Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Madam Speaker, the Liberals promised to be the most open and transparent government in history and said data paid for by Canadians belongs to Canadians. Well, that promise is just a sick joke after 9 years of secrecy and cover-ups. Yesterday, common sense Conservatives forced the NDP-Liberal government to release some of the data that they have been suppressing, which proves that the carbon tax costs every Canadian family nearly $2,000. The Environment Minister has misled Canadians. When will he resign?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think that the people who should resign are the people who have hundreds of times voted against providing Canadians with clean air, clean water, protecting the environment. Not tens of times, hundreds of times, Madam Speaker. If anyone should resign in this House, it is this people. 8 out of 10 Canadians are better off because of carbon pricing, where the federal program applies. We're helping Canadians. We're fighting climate change. They're doing none of that.
The member for Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Well, Madam Speaker, this government only does the right thing when they get caught. They only disclose this information because Conservatives forced them to. This NDP government put a gag order on the Parliamentary Budget Officer because they didn't want Canadians to know the economic cost of the carbon tax. Per capita GDP is falling. The carbon tax makes life more expensive, proving that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. The Environment Minister has misled Canadians by hiding the truth. When will he resign?
Yes. Honourable Minister of Innovation.
I think we've answered that question many times. The sloppy Conservatives, we know where they're going. They're against climate change. They've resigned on acting on behalf of Canadians. They've resigned on taking the best side of the Canadians. They've resigned on future generation, Madam Speaker. Think about that. They will not stand up to fight for our kids and our grandkids. Climate change is the issue of our time, Madam Speaker, and they've resigned from this issue. So it's laughable to hear them speak about resigning. 8 of 10 Canadians will be better off, Madam Speaker. We're going to fight for Canadians at every step of the way, and Canadians know that, and they see the games that the Conservatives are playing this morning.
Honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Well, Madam Speaker, let's test that hypothesis and call an election right now. After months of fighting this NDP-Liberal government just to get the facts, we finally got some of the documents. The government's own analysis on the carbon tax shows that Canadians will lose nearly $30 billion, costing families $1,800 each year. Clearly, Canadians are not better off with this job-killing carbon tax. Everyone is paying more and getting less. This Liberal government is not worth the cost. The minister needs to take responsibility for hiding this information from Canadians. When will the Prime Minister be demanding his resignation?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, if the member opposite actually cares about the next generation, as we're looking into Father's Day, let's think about that. We're talking about taking responsibility today for our actions to make sure that we're passing over a healthy planet to our next generations. 8 out of 10 Canadians get more back from the climate rebate than they do pay in any kind of carbon pricing, but more importantly, we're making sure that we're protecting the planet for our children.
Honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Well, Madam Speaker, if that was true, why is this NDP-Liberal government working so hard to cover up the documents that prove them wrong? It was only common sense Conservatives who forced this NDP-Liberal government to reveal the truth, and the Liberals tried to discredit our own budget watchdog. But it was revealed that they were hiding the true cost of their carbon tax with secret documents and gag orders. These Liberals can run, but they can't hide from the true cost of their inflationary carbon tax. Canadians will lose nearly $30 billion a year. That's $1,800 for each Canadian family. The minister needs to face the consequences for this cover-up. When will the Prime Minister demand his resignation?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
Madam Speaker, this Environment Minister is the first Environment Minister in history to put forward a credible plan to meet our 2050 net zero objectives and our Paris commitments. That member, you know what he should do? You know what they preferred, which would have remained secret? His premier, who scoured the universe, looked on the internet, got out his calculator, did all of that analysis that Scott Moe does, and said, you know what? The price on pollution is the cheapest way to go about fighting climate change and putting money in people's...
The Honourable Member for Regina Wascana.
Madam Speaker, after 9 years of this Liberal NDP government, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost or the cover-ups. The Environment Minister has been saying all along that the carbon tax wouldn't cost us any money, or that it would even make money. But now we know the economy will lose $30.5 billion per year, or $1,800 per family, because of the carbon tax. Madam Speaker, when will the Environment Minister resign?
Good question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Clear, Madam Speaker, that question's been answered numerous times, but it's no surprise that Conservatives don't want to talk about their embarrassing vote against tax fairness. Well, Conservatives believe if you're flipping burgers, you should pay more tax than if you're flipping stocks or houses. With our plan, we're standing up for tax fairness. And let's just be clear, if you don't profit over $250,000 from an investment or the sale of an asset in a single year, you won't pay a cent more. If you make your hard-earned money on a paycheck, you won't pay a cent more. The Conservatives think hardworking Canadians pay tax on
Honourable member for Regina Wascana.
Madam Speaker, when the Parliamentary Budget Officer asked the Minister's Department to provide its internal economic analysis of the carbon tax, the response included the following sentence: "I request you to ensure that this information is used for your office's internal purposes only and is not published or further distributed." This is the gag order that the extremist Environment Minister placed on the Parliamentary Budget Officer, and this is why the Environment Minister must resign.
That's right.
When will he do it?
That's
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, it's clear that Conservatives don't care about the future of the planet. They don't care about tax fairness. They don't care about investments that Canadians need and rely on. They believe that if you're flipping burgers, you should pay more tax than if you're flipping homes or flipping stocks to make a living. You know, under our plan for tax fairness, if you don't profit over $250,000 from an investment or the sale of a property, you won't pay a cent more. If you make your hard-earned income on a paycheck, you won't pay a cent more. That's 99.87% of the population that won't pay a cent more. We think that the wealthiest should
to pay a little bit more.
After 9 years of this NDP-Liberal government, the truth is out about their punishing carbon tax. A partial government report leaked by the Liberals to the marketing arm of the Liberal Party of Canada, the CBC, revealed that when factoring for inflation, the Liberal carbon tax will leave a $30 billion hole in our economic activity. The carbon tax will cost every Canadian household almost $2,000. The Liberals' activist Environment Minister tried to silence the Parliamentary Budget Officer from exposing this report. This is unbelievable. The Environment Minister is not worth the cost. When will he resign?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, the member opposite is fighting action against climate change at the very moment that houses in her own community are threatened by wildfires. We are trying to make sure that we save people's homes. We are protecting Canadian communities. She's busy letting the planet burn.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Madam Speaker, that's absolutely ridiculous, and the Liberals have been hiding the truth from Canadians. Right at the Finance Committee, the Parliamentary Budget Officer said, quote, "We've been told explicitly not to disclose it and reference it." The Liberals have been trying to muzzle the Parliamentary Budget Officer. And, the government is still holding much of this report from the public. The entire report must be released to expose the economic vandalism of the carbon tax. The Environment Minister is not worth the cost. Will he resign?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
Madam Speaker, that member sure represents a beautiful part of Canada. The last time I was there, you could almost choke on the forest fire smoke. People in Kelowna, people in the Okanagan expect action on climate change. And they also know that 8 out of 10 of them pay less in price on pollution than they get back in rebates. That is the case across the country where the tax applies. Madam Speaker, we are acting on the environment. We are acting on affordability. The people of the Okanagan support that.